Hello, everybody. Uh, my name is Isabel Martinez, and I am a fisheries officer at the Belize Fisheries Department. I'm from Belize. The title of my project is Securing Belizean Sailboat Fishers' Livelihoods by Improving Their Income Through the Diversification of Lobster Fishing Methods. So the Belize Fisheries Department's mission is to provide the country with the best possible management of its aquatic and fisheries resources. Currently, this department is under the Ministry of the Blue Economy and Civil Aviation, and it is a government authority with a legal mandate for the registration and licensing of fishers and vessels, fisheries research, development of the fisheries sector, education and outreach, management of marine reserves, fisheries law enforcement, and management of export and research permits. So it is responsible for the conservation and sustainable use of Belize's fishery resources. In Belize, the fishing industry has strong traditional roots. It's focused mainly on the shallow waters between the coast and the barrier reef and on 3 of its offshore atolls. It is economically and socially important to Belize. There are more than 3,000 fishers that are directly dependent on captured fisheries. And this supports directly an estimated 15,000 Belizeans and indirectly many more. Those numbers may not sound like a lot, but the population of Belize is actually very small. It's only about 400,000. The commercial fishing industry targets mainly the spiny lobster, the queen conch, and is characterized as a small-scale artisanal fishery. The fishing operation is mostly non-mechanized with the use of sailing sloops that have auxiliary outboard engines and also use canoes. And there's also the use of skiffs that are on average 25 feet in size. If you look at the pictures here, you can see the picture of this one on the left, sailboat. So it takes a lot of fishers on it. And then the one on the right, the skiff that is going out to fish, taking the lobster traps. So fishers that fish for lobster usually use lobster traps, lobster shades, hook sticks, and not as commonly the bully net or the snare. For the fishing for lobster and conch is usually free diving, and for finfish by fishing by hook and line or by spear gun. And approximately 90% of the lobster and conch that is landed is exported mainly to the United States and to Europe, with lobster being the most lucrative commercial species. So this project that I'll be presenting on is in line with the development of a blue economy pathway that will be conducive to economic contributions to Belize's economy and the livelihood of its people. The National Fisheries Policy, Strategy and Action Plan that was developed in 2019 speaks a lot on the importance of the development of fisheries value chain and blue economy as being critical to Belize's economic development. It also stresses on the importance of understanding inefficiencies such as the lack of skills, technology, investments, and infrastructures in the fisheries value chains to prevent the loss of opportunities for fisheries diversification, value-added products, market access, employment generation, and foreign exchange earnings. So in that regard, this project aligns very well with the current National Fisheries Policy, Strategy, and Action Plan. Like I said, that speaks to, as its objective to diversification and to value-added products and to better market access. The target area for the project is, if you take a look at the maps, the map on the left, there's 2 circles at the very top. So there's where the communities, where the fishers come from, that are the target group for my project. It is where they are from. Yet, if you look at the arrow, it's pointing to Belize City. So the fishers are from the north of Belize, but they land their product in Belize City, because what happens is that these fishers travel by bus, public transportation from their northern communities, travel to Belize City. That is where their vessels are located. That is where their vessels stay. That is where they get the supplies they need to go out fishing, so groceries and fuel and so on. And so they would go out from their boats from there to their fishing areas And the map on the right basically shows their fishing areas. A lot of them are concentrated, like I mentioned, in atolls, Area 6, Area 7, and Area 8. Currently, there are a total of 9 fishing areas. The first 8 are either the nearer shore regions or the atolls, and then the 9th area is left for deep sea fishing. Fishers currently can have access to 2 out of the 8 areas, and additionally can also have access to Area 9 for deep sea fishing. And so the fishers from the communities that are my target, basically a lot of them would go from 2 of the communities would go to Area 6 and 7, which are 2 atolls, and then from the other community, a lot of them use Area 3 and the other atoll, which is Area 8. Like I mentioned, my target groups are the communities, 3 of the fishing communities in northern Belize called Sarteneja, Chunosh, and Copperbank. And currently, out of the 3,048 licensed fishers that we have, 317 are from Sarteneja, 239 from Chunosh, and 105 from Copperbank. They use both skiffs and sailboats, but a lot of them use the sailboats. It's very traditional to these fishing communities. Currently, there are 820 registered fishing vessels in Belize, and out of those, 81 are sailboats. Again, it might not sound like a lot, but what happens is that the sailing fleet is very important in the fishing industry in Belize because it constitutes of approximately 25 to 30% out of the total number of fishers. And that is because the sailboats take a lot more fishers on board as compared to the skiffs. So on average, there are usually 10 fishers going on board each sailboat. And the average duration of their fishing trip is 5 to 7 days. This project is expected to not only impact and have benefits to the fishers themselves, but also it's expected to translate to economic benefits for families and businesses in these communities, because better income for the fishers means better incomes for the communities themselves. So over time, Belize has been a leader and an innovator in fisheries management in the Mesoamerican region. It uses a holistic ecosystems-based approach. And we have also transitioned from an open access approach to a rights-based management approach called managed access. So with the current management measures in place, with the current management regimes that is currently in place, the ideal time to help fishers meet the current market demands and thus gain tangible benefits is now. Also, with the current rising cost of living and the need to provide for their families and secure their livelihoods and follow sustainable fishing practices, fishers need to be able to now find ways to add value to their product and make the most out of their catch. So this project its objective is to do exactly that. It seeks to pilot this effort that will achieve this with the sailing fleet in Belize. And it will do so by allowing the sailboat fishers to shift to a more selective fishing gear for harvesting lobster. So shifting from the use of the hook stick to the snare will allow fishers to obtain the whole lobster, as opposed to hooking them, because the moment they hook it with the hook stick, then it's going to be dead, and so they can't land it alive. So the objective is for them to be able to fish for it, have it alive, and transport it alive so that you're able to land it alive and sell live lobster, which fetches a better price. That change would also allow them to harvest sustainably so that they're able to release the undersized ones and to ultimately, like I said, bring the lobsters to mainland alive and sell it in a good state. In order for this to work, adaptations need to be made to the sailing vessels. A live tank will need to be placed on board, apart from the usual icebox that they have, to be able to keep the product alive until it is delivered to the cooperatives. Again, because the fishing areas are distant from where they landed in Belize City, and even more distant to where they live in Corazon. The plan is to pilot this effort with 6 sailing vessels. And so what would make this project innovative is its potential for high adaptability and scalability to changing markets and situations without losing the traditional practice of using their sailboats. This goes very well in line with the Sustainable Development Goal 14, and also with the FAO's voluntary guidelines for securing sustainable small-scale fisheries by having fishers utilize sustainable fishing practices. And also, once having documented this pilot, if it is successful, other fishers will have more tangible evidence that will convince them to make this investment in diversifying their fishing method, which will be profitable for them in the long term. You can see the pictures here on the far left. It is a sailboat fisher tailing off the lobster. It's usually caught with a hook stick. Like I said, they would tail off the lobster and usually only land and sell the lobster tails, and probably take out some of the head meat to sell as well, but it is for the head meat goes for a very low price. The middle picture shows a fisher using a snare, which is what we want to switch to, which is the objective of the project. And on the far right, you have a skiff fisher with lobster caught with a bully net, like a scoop net called a hamo. This is sometimes used, but it wouldn't work as well for the sailboat fleet. It works mostly for the skiffs because the fishers on the skiffs would have lobster shades, whereas the fishers from the sailboat do not. The overall goal of the project is to improve sailboat fishers' livelihoods, and the purpose of the project is for sailboat lobster fishers' income to improve by the diversification of their fishing method. The outputs, which are the necessary conditions to achieve the project purpose, are for the sailboat lobster fishers to be willing to diversify their fishing methods, and also the second output will be for them to be able to fish and land the live lobsters. The activities necessary for this are a public awareness campaign for a sustainable fishery, a local knowledge exchange with skiff fishers using sustainable fishing gear to catch lobster, a two-way knowledge exchange with live lobster fishers from Quintana Roo, Mexico that are already using this type of gear, an updating of the market study of live lobster export, a development of local market activity for live lobster, and a link with a local certification program. The activities for output 2 would be that fishers learn new sustainable fishing methods, also to develop new transportation methods for live lobster, and to have consultation meetings between the fishers and the exporters to discuss ways in how they could transport the product. Installing live lobster tanks on the sailboat, or also seeking alternative transportation methods. Another important activity is a site visit with women and children for them to see the fishers' fishing grounds and the new lobster fishing method. And the final activity would be an external evaluation of the project. The inputs in terms of equipment include office equipment and supplies, educational campaign materials, equipment for fishers, including the new gear, materials for building of the live tanks on vessels, fuel, the fishing trip supplies during the pilot trips, the supplies for women and kids trips to the fishing area, so the site visit. The personnel would include one project coordinator, one project officer, and one field officer, along with a government officer that is to spend 40% of their time in mentoring in the implementation of the project. The operational cost, here in the budget, I have broken down the cost for all of the different activities, and the total would be approximately 205,000 US dollars, which is 410,000 Belize dollars at an exchange of 2 to 1. The implementation schedule, this is projected to be for 2 years, from January 2022 to January 2024. The implementing agencies, the lead agency would be the Belize Fisheries Department that is under the Ministry of Blue Economy, and the supporting agencies would be the fishermen associations in these fishing communities, the exporters, the ones that are exporting the live lobster and whole lobster, the NGOs that work in these areas as well. So for related activities that are currently going on, there's currently a local certification program in Belize called Fish Right, Eat Right, which establishes a local brand and aims to promote best practices in fisheries by providing marketing incentives throughout the supply chain through the promotion of responsible seafood consumption. And so the plan is for this to work along with an advertising campaign for tourists and for the public to support these recognized establishments. So this is a related activity that we could make a link to this project to show fishers that there is the market for this live lobster, and it doesn't only have to be the market that is for export, but also a local market and a local certification program that could help them get better prices for their product. And currently, also, the Nature Conservancy in Belize has been working with one of the cooperatives, which is also currently exporting live lobster right now, on electronic traceability. And so they're collecting real-time data as it arrives at the cooperative, and through this traceability system, they can link the catch to the individual fishers and their fishing areas. So this is again with the aim of improving the fishery and the livelihoods of these fishers so that they have better access, the cooperative has better access to markets. So this should bring benefits to its members. And again, the members include my same target group. In terms of gender roles significantly influence the fishery here in Belize. Usually the involvement of women in the fishery sector is seen mainly in management roles, in government and NGOs, and there's a lot of participation, but in post-harvest activities, in the processing and the sale of the lobster, conch, and finfish. But fishing has traditionally been and remains a male-dominated activity here. And so it's specifically in the main fishing communities where I spoke about, the women usually do not play an active role in fishing activities. We only have one licensed fisherwoman in these communities that I spoke about. Their role is in managing the household. So one of the activities that I included in the project was having one of the last activities that you saw was giving women and the youth an opportunity to visit the fishing areas and the fishing grounds that these fishers use once they have switched to this sustainable gear, for them to see firsthand how they use the gear. Again, because this would empower them to have the opportunity to influence in their homes and communities, to help fishers recognize that this is a good opportunity, and also the importance of taking care of the resources that they depend on. Another key component in the project is, like I mentioned, the staff having a project coordinator that, along with the mentor, will ensure that the lobster fishers taking part in the pilot do not lose focus in the project, and that there are quarterly meetings where you could have monitoring and evaluation of the project. So this project seeks to include schools, the village council, which is the local form of local government, fishermen associations, the fishermen cooperatives, key NGOs, and governments in order to achieve success. And the impact of the project is expected to remain well after the duration of the 2 years, and it's expected to have tangible results in getting them to diversify their fishing method so that they can land whole lobster. And this can become a model of implementation if it is successful. It can become a model at a national level where the sailboat fleet and the skiffs can use this and as an example of diversifying their fishing methods. So with the current management measures that we have and initiatives and value-added opportunities, the momentum is currently ideal to implement this project. That is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Martinez-san. Very detailed action plan. I'm very much impressed. So now it's a time for the discussions. I would like to ask commentators for their comments and suggestions. And especially this time, I would like to Professor Ebata, as he gave us the lectures on eco-friendly fishing methods. So maybe I would like to ask his opinions, suggestions, and also Professor Baba, because he provided lecture on the value chain, and your action plan is related with the value chain as well. So, commentators, could you please share with us the...
いいですか？
はい、じゃあ、江端先生、よろしくお願いします。
Thank you very much. Nice presentation. So I hope your activity plan is going well. So this is just a question. How about demand and the price of lobster in your country? Because normally the lobster is very expensive in Japan, but the price and the demand also is really going down due to the COVID since last year. So this is my question.
Hi. So yes, usually the demand is very steady. like I said, a lot of it, 90% of it is exported. The focus is on exporting lobster tails, but currently there is one exporting company in the south of Belize that is exporting live lobster, and there's a cooperative that has just restarted to export live lobster, and they export it to Hong Kong. So there is a market for it, and there is a market opportunity for it. And like I mentioned, additionally, there is like the opportunity to also foster for a local market for it. Because currently we're not using that opportunity because we depend a lot on tourism. And yes, because of COVID, tourism has been slow, but it is slowly opening up back again. And so there's an opportunity to have that local market as well. But usually there was a time, yes, when the prices fell somewhat, but it has stabilized now again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Yamata-sensei. And I'd like to ask Baba-sensei for his opinions on this action plan, especially about the marketing and distribution side. すみません、Baba-sensei、よろしいでしょうか。
Thank you very much for the clarifying presentation. First, you mentioned that the fishers in some area are already employing the fishing methods, maybe snare method for harvesting live lobsters. Are there any differences concerning the conditions of the seabed where the lobster distributes? Do you know the situation?
Yeah, so the ones that are currently using and it's very, very few of them currently using the snare. It's more the hammock that they're using the bully net. But like I said, those are the skiff fishers, and they fish closer to the coast. It's more like not too far from the coast, and because they have skiffs, they could transport the lobster more easily because the skiff could travel faster. And also, like I said, their fishing areas are not as far out as for the sailboat fleet, but also these skiff fishers, they would usually have the ones that use the bully net or sometimes the snare. They have lobster sheds that we call casitas, and so they have fishing camps out at their fishing areas, and so that allows them to, well, with the lobster shade, they can go to the shade, they can use the bully net or they can use the snare, catch the lobster, and in the meantime they leave it at their fishing camps. They have somebody at the fishing camp that takes care of the stuff so that it is not stolen, so that pirates at sea do not take it. And so after a couple of days, then 2-3 days, and they would come in with their product to the mainland. And so that is the difference. Whereas the sailboat fleet, they do not have, their fishing grounds are farther out, usually at the atolls. They fish on the reef. And so the use of the snare is a bit more challenging to them. So that's why they would need to go through a lot of training to use it and for them to transition. And also they don't have fishing camps out at sea. And the reason they don't have is because usually the people that have fishing camps have already used those areas. And so there are not many camps available because they're already settled in their areas.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I understand well, but I think the live lobster, of course, can be highly evaluated as the product export or even in domestic consumptions. So I think your idea for this action plan is very nice, I think, and I expect this plan can be a success example in your countries? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Baba. And is there any other question, comments, or suggestions from commentators?
May I?
Yes,
Ishikawa
yes,
speaking.
please. 石川先生、お願いします。
Yes. So I'm very happy, interesting about your presentation. Thank you very much. So, but in case of the lobster resource management, in sometimes such as how to avoid the disturbance of the recruitment is a very big issue. So now in the case of the lobsters, the phylloxoma, the larva of the lobster, possibly transported by the water current and also some environmental factors. In these cases, the setting of the closing season or closing areas is sometimes effective to keep the sustainability of the resources. Please think about this point. How to please check of the reproductive biology of the lobster itself. This should be taken into account when you're planning to the additional planning to manage resource management in these cases. I think that this point should be taken. Please consider about the point. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Satoshi. Actually, we currently do have a closed season for lobster. I'm sorry if I didn't mention that because I didn't want to spend too much time on the background information. But yes, we currently have a lobster season, closed season. We close the season for about 4 months out of the year.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to that news.
Thank you very much, Ishikawa sensei. And I'm for your information, I'm in project. I'm a member of project for the Caribbean regions, and in St. Lucia, what we try is to install the artificial reef, hoping that some of the juveniles of lobsters will stay there, and the artificial reef will protecting them, and it becomes like a nursery, and that goes into the idea of Satomi as well, enhancing the productivity, natural productivity, with the intervention of humans. So that might be something interesting that we hope. So it's just for your information. 宇田川さんなんか発言されます？
はい。Isabel-san, thank you very much for your very concise and informative presentation. I have one thing. We discussed about ecotourism and then fishermen's involvement of ecotourism. What do you think about inviting some tourists come to visit fishermen's fishing activities and they enjoy this ecotourism options? What is your idea? Thank you.
Thank you, Dagawa-san. Yes, it is. We spoke about developing ecotourism. It definitely is something that could be explored locally. Again, the sailboat is a very traditional type of fishing vessel here, and so the experience would be unique for once having made the transition of the fishing gear. It would be a nice experience to have couple that with the tourists now going to these areas to see the fishers carrying out their fishing activities, see that it is a sustainable method, and then maybe having them have that experience of seeing the vessels, seeing them fishing, and consuming the product that is caught in that area. However, the only thing would be, like we discussed, that this activity would need to take place not in their traditional fishing areas out at the atolls, but probably a bit closer to some of the tourist islands that are here in Belize. And again, would have to explore how these sailboats would put in place safety standards and also just hygienic standards for when they develop this ecotourism opportunity.
Okay, thank you very much for your explanation. Yeah, I understand. For your country, tourism is very important. So safety of tourists is very important to consider. Okay, and another thing is you are considering local target for live lobster. And at this moment, about 90% of the lobster is exported, mostly frozen lobster tail. By developing the local market and then, for exporting, you can grasp, you can get the exact amount of lobster caught and exported. But when you develop local market and those statistics of the lobster catch, is that not your concern? I mean, you might not be able to collect good information about lobster catch by developing local market. Okay, that is my question. Thank you.
Okay, if I understand your question, yeah. So when we export, we collect information because the exporting companies and the fishing cooperatives have to provide the fisheries department with information in terms of what is exported, what they buy. And so that's how we get an idea of what is landing. But if we start to develop this local market as well, there are ways of getting that information as well, because one, it could be under that Fish Right, Eat Right project that I mentioned, but also two, because the fishers here in Belize it's mandatory for them to submit the catch data. So they have catch log books where they would record whatever they catch, and that's all fishers, that's all of the vessels, including the sailboats. And so whatever is caught in terms of lobster, whether it will be sold locally or by export, should be recorded in their catch logbooks, whatever it is that they catch. And that catch logbook is a condition of their license, so it is mandatory.
Okay, thank you very much. It is clear. You have a good system to grasp the statistics of lobster catch. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Isabel-san. We still have some time if you have any comments, questions, suggestions. Does anybody has something to say? No? If not, I think we can finish the sessions. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Martinez-san, for your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to thank everybody at JICA, at ICNet, and especially Udawaka-san, who has mentored me in the development of this project. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you.